confirms that its success in cooperating with the UN regarding the implementation of its commitments related to the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Agreement has triggered the anger of the parties that are conspiring against it. Lavrov says President Bashar al-Assad represents the interests of a large bracket of the Syrian people. Syrian Arab armed forces continue their military operations in clearing Adra residential town of terrorists. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Irado Krikorian with the news in English. Syria has condemned the leakage of information on chemical weapons in Syria to terrorists by the states that support the armed terrorist groups in Syria, holding those states responsible for the danger the leakage of such information poses. An official source at the Foreign and Expatriates Ministry today declared that the full cooperation between Syria and the UN General Secretariat and the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Organization, as well as Syria's successful cooperation in implementing its commitments related to the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Agreement, has triggered the anger of the parties that conspire against Syria and support the terrorist organizations. Hence, the terrorists' criminal attacks on the sites where the chemical materials are placed pending their transfer outside Syria. The Foreign Ministry added that on the 21st of this month, the armed terrorist groups attacked one of those sites in the central region in huge numbers and with machine guns-equipped vehicles. Their target was to occupy it and destroy it. However, the concerned sites intercepted this vicious attack and thwarted it. The source added that terrorist groups from the so-called Islam Brigade and Jabhat al-Nusra also attacked a site in Damascus suburbs and tried to storm it with an armored vehicle loaded with large quantities of explosives. However, the guards of the site intercepted the attempt and detonated the booby-trapped car before it entered the site, causing a huge blast. 4 people were killed and 28 others were injured. The source added that those attacks reflected the criminal nature of those terrorist organizations who are only interested in shedding blood and causing destruction. The important thing, the source went on, is how those groups were able to know of the efforts underway to transfer those materials outside Syria with the cooperation of the UN and the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Organization. The source stressed the dangerous and irresponsible role of certain states that communicate with the armed men and convey to them the information related to the contents of the sites. The source holds those states responsible for the catastrophic results that may ensue from the leakage of such information. The source said Syria appears to relevant international organizations, the UN Secretary General and the Director General of the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Organization, to exert all necessary efforts to prevent those irresponsible states from carrying out such practices that are of a catastrophic nature. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has affirmed that President Bashar al-Assad represents the interests of a large bracket of the Syrian people. He referred to the success realized in both the Syrian and Iranian issues thanks to the efforts of all concerned states. Lavrov pointed out that there are certain sides who are trying to take advantage of the humanitarian situation in Syria to ignite tension prior to the convention of the Geneva II International Conference on Syria. Lavrov said Western states stand towards Syria became more realistic after they had realized the danger of terrorism there. China has expressed hope that the Geneva II International Conference on Syria would be held as scheduled, expecting positive results to come out of it. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chongying said in a press conference that her country hoped Geneva II would be held as soon as possible and that it supported concerned regions and states. She also voiced China's hope that the conference would yield positive results as soon as possible to guarantee a peaceful and stable life for the Syrian people. Minister of Religious Endowments Dr. Muhammad Abd al-Sattar al-Sayyid has affirmed that Syria will triumph thanks to the unity of its Muslim and Christian citizens and their determination to confront the conspiracy against them. Dr. al-Sayyid, who has paid a visit to Patriarch X Yazigi of Antioch and all the Orient for the Greek Orthodox on the occasion of Christmas, said the Wahhabi Takfiri terrorist assault targeting Islamic and Christian sanctities and scholars and men of religion has exposed the thought of those criminal extremists. Their massacres would only increase the Syrians' determination to hold on to their homeland Syria and foil their schemes, Dr. al-Sayyid added. On his part, Patriarch Yazigi said, Syria has been made by God Almighty a cradle of human civilizations and heavenly religions, with all its citizens connected together with a bond of love and fraternity. He stressed that all the attempts to sow sedition among its citizens has been doomed to failure. 4 citizens were killed and several others were injured today when mortar shells fired by terrorists fell on a Zablatani residential neighborhood in Damascus. A police command source said the 4 shells fell on Al-Hal market, killing 4 citizens and wounding 20 others and inflicting material damage on a number of cars in the area. In Adra al-Ummaliya, clashes continue to take place in several axes as part of a very specific and delicate operation conducted by the Syrian Arab Army against the terrorists in order to protect civilians. In the early morning hours, Syrian Arab soldiers stormed the terrorist hideouts inside Adra al-Ummaliya at a time when the whereabouts of the terrorists were continuously monitored. Several buildings where the terrorists existed were taken control of. Feeling completely encircled, the terrorists desperately attacked the fuel reservoirs of Satco warehouses, targeting them with several mortar shells. In Aleppo and over the past period, Syrian Arab Army carried out several successful wide-ranged operations against the terrorists.
In Aleppo, the most important operation by the Syrian Arab Army was reopening the road of Aleppo-Khanasir, which was cut off by the armed terrorist groups. The reopening of the road was achieved after the Syrian Arab Army cleared more than 40 villages of the terrorists in the southeastern countryside of Aleppo. The Syrian Arab Army's operations continued to reach the village of Abu Jrin. Then the army continued into Sfera, which the terrorists thought it to be a big challenge for the Syrian Arab Army, who did not only enter the area but also maintain security and stability there, killing many terrorists and seizing large amounts of their weapons and ammunition. In less than 3 days afterwards, Syrian Arab Army continued to advance, crushing the terrorists in Tel Aran, then Tel Hasel. At that time, and on the other axis, most of the areas surrounding Aleppo International Airport had been witnessing intensive military operations, starting from the areas of Battalion 80, Al-Naqarin and the village of Douairine to reach the area of the factories and the cotton gins. By this, Syrian Arab Army maintained control on more than 80% of the southeastern countryside of Aleppo. As for the city of Aleppo, Syrian Arab Army continued a cautious and tentative progress in the old city of Aleppo in order to preserve what was left of cultural and historical heritage. Several areas witnessed intensive operations as the army maintained control on the factories stretching between Shihan and Al-Layramun. Syrian Arab Army soldiers still continued their operations, vowing to crush the terrorists and to purge their country of them.
In Aleppo countryside, terrorists were eliminated in Kshish Airport, Ras Al-Aboud, Jubba Ghabshe, the industrial zone, Castello Road, around the central prison, Al-Jdeide, Arbid and Queris. 2 boats for terrorists were destroyed in Sabkhet al-Jabbul. The Syrian Arab Army defeated terrorist attempt to sneak from Al-Wadihi to Hraibel and from Sheikh Said neighborhood to the military housing area. In Idlib countryside, a unit of the Syrian Arab Army destroyed terrorist equipment around Saraqib, Sarmin, Ariha, Ma'arit Masrin, Taftanaz, Arrama and Ahsham. Also in Homs countryside, gatherings for terrorists were attacked and eliminated by Syrian Arab Army in Sheikh Ibrahim al-Hakim area in Arrestan, Talbisa and Jabal al-Nahdain. Finally, Iraqi Acting Defense Minister Saadon al-Dulaymi survived an assassination attempt today as his convoy was attacked by an improvised explosive device in al-Fallujah of the western governorate of al-Anbar. A spokesman for the Iraqi Minister of Defense, Major General Muhammad al-Askari, said a roadside bomb planted on the highway exploded, targeting the motorcade of the acting defense minister in al-Fallujah, wounding 2 of his bodyguards. Meanwhile, a government statement said ground-level security forces backed by helicopters have been combing the desert near the borders with Syria and Jordan to hunt down al-Qaeda-linked terrorists. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.